The comrade is right, the comrade is right. I started at 3 in the afternoon. We haven't mentioned Aquaman at all, but you know what? Let's focus. Filming finished December 10th and test screenings began on February 15th. The only things that have been said are negative. Among the worst of this information is that people are even leaving in the middle of the screening. They're not finishing the movie because they find it extremely boring, the absolute worst. There are 2 points that I find very hard to believe in this information about Aquaman. The first is that there's still a long time before the movie is released. It's a bit early for them to be doing test screenings, but well, does it make sense? It does that they're doing screenings at this point in the year. If it's true that the movie is really bad and they want as much time as possible to fix it before, well, it hits theaters and becomes a total failure, like unfortunately the last Detective Comics releases have been in recent years. Except for a few movies like The Batman and Joker, honestly, there are very few. Now, the second point that I find very hard to believe in this information in these Aquaman notes is that they label this movie as the worst in the Detective Comics universe. So it's really hard for me to imagine just how bad you have to be as a movie to be worse than David Ayer's Suicide Squad, to be worse than Birds of Prey, worse than Batman v Superman, and worse than Wonder Woman 84. Imagine how bad you must be. I find those 2 points hard to process. What could be worse than Jared Leto's Joker? I think the worst of the worst so far is still The Squad. Personal opinion, mainly because of Joker. Honestly, how did I get my hopes up for Wonder Woman 84? And honestly, it makes me sad to remember. I was excited for that movie, the trailer was pretty spectacular, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. What's up with taking away Wonder Woman's sword because it's too violent? What is that? No, please, I have a theory. This information came out just when people were throwing shade at Ant-Man. I think this is a smokescreen to distract the public. Ah, that's right. The criticism of Ant-Man and the other criticism came out almost at the same time. But I don't know, honestly, I don't really buy it. These stories about a conspiracy between Disney and Detective Comics, I'm not saying they're not real, but it's pretty conspiratorial, even for me, and I usually come up with theories, so I don't know. Like when people tell me that James Gunn is still a Marvel infiltrator who's bringing down Detective Comics from the inside, that also seems really absurd to me. I respect it. If that's how they think, that's fine, but it's just work. Honestly, I don't think you'd want to ruin your job for some fake loyalty to a superhero company. I mean, we have to understand that these executives or higher-ups aren't necessarily fans of the characters they work with. Because of things like that, I find those beliefs somewhat absurd, but we don't have the absolute truth. Adding to your comment, a lot of Snyder fans also started saying, coincidentally, that actually all these criticisms were made up and ordered by James Gunn and Peter Safran to take away impact from Aquaman. And so people wouldn't miss this cast and this universe started by Zack Snyder anymore. And this way, they wouldn't have so many stumbles with the start of their new universe. So there shouldn't be as much negative criticism of the new actors they select, that's all. Let's ruin Aquaman's reputation so people dislike Jason Momoa and prefer seeing him as Lobo instead. Wow, there are a lot of theories, but I stick with the simple one. I think the movie is actually just bad, that's it. It's not surprising, Marvel mostly has a deplorable track record with some exceptions. On the other hand, Detective Comics is a mess. If there's internal sabotage, yes, exactly. I mean, why would Marvel or Disney want to boycott Detective Comics if Detective Comics keeps shooting itself in the foot every chance it gets? No, it doesn't make sense. Why would you waste resources trying to bring down a company that's practically already down? We were talking about this a few days ago. That maybe by the time we see these new stories, these new characters, this new vision from the new creative leads, it may already be too late as superhero movies and products have saturated the general audience. People will still be interested in 2 years just like now. I use them quite a lot. Since the Detective Comics fandom, a certain behind-the-scenes preview of this movie was released. And the truth is that Jason Momoa looks pretty out of shape. Nothing like the Jason Momoa we saw in Game of Thrones or in Aquaman 1. He really was an impressive mass of muscles. I mean, I'm not one to criticize someone else's physique. Honestly, I don't care. That's not my point. What I'm getting at is that it suggests there's a certain lack of commitment to the project. That's what I mean. Add to that the fact that the Aquaman movie was filmed in the middle of all the chaos going on with Detective Comics, with Warner Bros., with Walter Hamada, with David Zaslav. Look, when there were these kinds of problems during the filming of Justice League, we already saw how that turned out. There wasn't a change of director. I agree with Aquaman, there's no change of director, but there are problems with resources, permits, actors. The thing with Amber, exactly. Jason went through a separation from his wife, though I'm not sure if it was technically a divorce. There were many problems with everything. Yeah, this is already sad. And I feel bad for Jason because even though I don't like him as an actor, I like him. I like him. I mean, as a person, you can tell he's a good guy. He puts all his energy into work, projects, and life in general. I don't know. I do like Detective Comics, but I'm objective, especially when it comes to topics like Batman v Superman, which always gets people talking, always gets people talking. I like the movie. I have that movie in the Ultimate Edition on original Blu-ray. I like it, but the movie is horrible. It's bad. They're the two titans of Detective Comics. I mean, they're not the Guardians of the Galaxy to experiment with. It's not Captain Marvel. No, no, it's Batman and it's Superman. They're the faces of the Justice League from Detective Comics. They're the faces of superheroes in general. And the fact that they made 700, 800 million is sad. That's undeniable. Can Marvel today rest assured that it won't have a strong competitor until the end? Yes, even with bad products. I made a friend cry here. I'm telling you, I'm also a Detective Comics fan. I really like it. They're my favorite superheroes, but we have to be objective. I can't spend the whole stream trying to defend Detective Comics because there's no point. We're not going to get anywhere. Here's the truth. I'm leaving this title. Donald Trump for Flash, then a bleak discussion about Disney's win and no hope. I like it. Well, it's fine. It's fine. Sorry for depressing you. That wasn't my intention, but you asked me about the boycott. So, speaking of Aquaman, what do you think about the mental organism designed only for killing poster that came out this week? No, that's not true, is it?